Joining us right now, Larry Kudlow from CNBC. It's part of his contract that he gets brought in with very impressive and sobering orchestral music like that.
It's part of his deal.
Kudlow, we've met all our requirements now.
Listen, it's even worse than that. I was standing 6 feet away, moderating a perfectly rational 50-person Q&A dinner with Scott Walker, and when Rudy Giuliani unleashed.
Yeah, what have you done? You've destroyed possibly two prominent Republicans' careers here, Larry Kudlow.
Yeah.
First Giuliani, and now Scott Walker for being in the room. What do you have to say? You're the Manchurian Candidate, aren't you, Kudlow?
What does it say about me?
Well, we do want to get to that, but I want to first hit the news of the day yesterday, which was Barack Obama proposing these new rules on brokers and retirement accounts. The way he painted it, stricter standards, brokers need to put their clients' interest ahead of personal gain. It all sounds like these are very rational rules, but what will the actual net effect be on people's retirement and on the industry?
Well, look, it's a good question. We don't know yet all the details, quote, fine print, and that's very, very, very important. I think the graybeards in the industry, including Mr. Jack Bogle, who's a great leader in this, can live with it and can support it because, there has been an argument down through the years that the brokers are churning commissions, and, a lot of times that helps them more than it helps their clients. I don't know that I agree with that, but I admit that there's some of that out there. So I don't have any big problem with it. We covered it on CNBC yesterday afternoon. What I don't like is something that didn't come up but is in Obama's budget, where they want to put income limits on people contributing to 401ks and IRAs. In other words, and if you're above a certain income limit, we don't know precisely what that is, you're not allowed to save. You're not allowed to invest. You're not allowed to take advantage of tax-advantaged savings mechanisms, which really is much more important than this other regulation. And if you ask me, we shouldn't be taxing saving at all.
But I think they tried that once before, and there was such an outcry that it went away.
Right. It didn't go away.
It came back, huh?
It's still, I don't think they'll ever get it through, so I think you're right on that point. But, they have tried that in the past. This other thing is relatively small potatoes, best I can determine. And most financial planners and most brokers have what they call a wrap fee account. So you're just paying one fee for a year's services, and that brings the cost structure down, and presumably, you'll still choose the best vehicle. So it's not like this is some radical thing, at least so far. I mean, I always suspect the worst in any of these regulations that I see coming out of Obama, but so far it doesn't look like it's a big deal.
All right, so right now we're facing one of these shutdown scenarios on Friday at midnight. If they can't come up with some kind of compromise, the Department of Homeland Security will be without funding. Now, that doesn't mean that people are going to not show up for work. I mean, the vast majority of employees at Homeland Security are considered critical employees, and they'll still show up at work while they continue to hammer this out. But how is it ultimately, in your view, going to be resolved? Because the hang-up is about immigration. The Republicans don't want to fund the president's illegal amnesty programs, and the Democrats are going to reject any Department of Homeland Security measure that doesn't include funding for the president's programs.
Well, those are all important questions. First of all, the Texas court decision may give the Republican Party a second life on this, may solve all their problems, and that would be the best of all outcomes, if you ask me. That would be the best of all outcomes. So that would give them breathing room. They could sign a funding bill, get that out of the way, and then figure out how to deal with the immigration question later. I mean, the GOP still doesn't have a unified immigration position in the House and Senate, as you know. So that's one point. I know that Obama is trying to find a three-judge court that will put a stay on that injunction, and we'll see how they do. Look, I'll be honest with you. I am completely opposed to the Obama approach to automatically by executive fiat, make these decisions. Completely opposed to that. All right. Having said that, I am also completely opposed to defunding Homeland Security Department. We have huge terrorist threats. They're getting worse. ISIS is coming after us. God knows how many cells they have in the United States. We're talking about terrorism in the great mall, the Hall of Fame mall outside Minneapolis, St. Paul, those kinds of things. I do not want to defund Homeland Security. I don't. What I want is an immigration policy. So we'll see how this plays out. The court decision may get the Republicans off the hook for quite some time. And I think Mitch McConnell, and I read this late last night, haven't really made my calls yet this morning. McConnell's idea is what, to separate out the immigration completely, right, and have nothing to do with funding, just separate it out and have a vote on it, which strikes me as eminently sensible. He's a very crafty legislator, and I'd like to see that vote.
Meanwhile, now it's time to circle back to your mischief making there up in Gotham as you hung Rudy Giuliani out to dry. Really, the bigger headline, I think, moving forward has to do with Scott Walker, who is a real contender for the 2016 GOP nomination and for the presidency. He's being criticized. Here is Chris Hayes on MSNBC last night speaking on, what I'm expecting to be one of Chris Hayes' final broadcasts in this business. Here he is talking about it.
Though the 2016 campaign is still in its infancy, it has already been a roller coaster for Walker, who's rocketed up the standings after a widely praised speech in Iowa late last month before falling back to earth after a series of what appeared to be embarrassing gaffes in which he failed to answer what seemed to be simple, non-controversial questions. Do you accept the theory of evolution? Does the president love his country? And is the president a Christian?
All right, Larry Kudlow, is this gotcha politics in the media, or is this kind of a good maelstrom for a potential GOP nominee to go through, because they're going to be faced with this stuff?
Oh, well, you're right. Look, they have to learn to deal with these things. It's a total distraction. But, yeah, I agree with you. They got to deal with that. And I think, by the way, Walker, I thought he dealt with them pretty well. I mean, he didn't want to get involved in this. He doesn't know if Obama's a Christian. He doesn't know anything about that. I didn't even know that question came from my very good friend Robert Costa in WAPO. I don't know where that question came from.
Yeah, we'd like to get Costa on here to talk about that. He comes on a lot.
Costa's a great reporter.
He is, and I'm going to just, because I know him, I just want to say I think he is the victim of a bad headline that was written. The headline was, because if you look at Walker's longer statement, which Costa puts in the second paragraph there, Walker says the American people don't care about this. They don't like these kind of questions. It's really not relevant to what the policies that affect the American people. But that doesn't fit in a headline. What fits in the headline is Walker, I don't know if Obama's Christian.
Look, let me just say a couple quickies here.
Very quickly.
I wrote a column entitled What Scott Walker Actually Said, and it's about the issues. And it's probably the most widely distributed column I've ever written. It had like 2 or 3 million shares.
Wow.
It's
good to be you.
You ought to read that, okay?
Right.
Listeners, please read that. It's up on National Review Online, CNBC.com, lots of places. Real Clear Politics. Read that.
Thanks, Larry.
Because I went through what he said substantively at that dinner.
All right. We got to leave it there.
We got to leave it there. So much to talk about.
We're way over. Larry, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated.